If you've been traveling with us for even a little while, maybe you have noticed that we normally stay as far away from current events as possible. We figure it's best just to leave all that to the news guys. But some things, it seems, just cannot be ignored.
Recently, we've been going through a strange and unprecedented time in our history. A terrible worldwide virus has affected every person on this planet in one way or another. Truly, our lives may never be the same again.
Right now, about all we can do is to keep as much distance between ourselves and other people as possible. And as our normal lives and travels ground to a halt, it occurred to us that this whole idea of isolation really is a strange thing for most Americans.
But out on the back roads, for years we've run into people who choose a life of isolation and self-reliance, the way many people did 70 or 80 years ago.
So we thought it might be a good idea for you to meet some of those fascinating people. And since this is a worldwide thing and not just a Texas thing, this week we're going to wander outside of our borders just a little bit. So why don't you just hop in and travel with us? I'm Bob Phillips.
And I'm Kelly Phillips. And this is a special edition of Texas Country Reporter.
I don't know how to explain that. I really don't know how to explain that, but you become a part of Tennessee, becomes a part of you. You know, life comes from the mountains, and it provides a good bit of my life. It's wonderful. It's kind of like stepping back in time a little bit.
High in the mountains of eastern Tennessee, there's a breeze that drifts up from a place called Gap Creek. Cheri Brannon farms along that trickling stream, and it's the breeze that carries the aroma of Cheri's all-natural, organic, chemical-free soaps, salves, and scented concoctions for whatever ails you.
I get it from the mountains, I get it from the plants that grow here. I don't know, you begin to get this connection with the land.
Cheri is an expert on herbs and the healing properties of stuff that grows right outside her house, stuff that finds its way into all her soaps.
This is jewelweed soap, and the color of it is strictly from the plant material. I harvest jewelweed on our mountain. Jewelweed is a natural antidote for poison ivy, and so we bathe with this and we use a jewelweed tincture, and it dries up what used to take weeks of poison ivy to just maybe 5 or 6 days. It's great. This is pumpkin spice, and it's made with real pumpkin. Pumpkin is really naturally moisturizing for the skin, and it smells just like a piece of pumpkin pie. And this is spiced oat bar. It's just a spicy smell. It's got little flakes of organic oats in it for exfoliation. Probably about 15 years ago, learned what was in a typical bar of soap, chemical colorants used, and I didn't want to put that on my skin.
And so began a life of natural plants, roots, herbs, and vodka?
I have vodka, but I don't drink. I use vodka to extract the healing properties out of plants. This is a percolation tincture. It's a newer way to do a tincture. It's a faster way to do a tincture, and a tincture is the strongest form of plant remedy.
A lot of what I do comes from these hills. The traditions come from these hills. It's mountain medicine that I make. It's mountain soap making, just taken to a newer level with finer ingredients.
This is my egg soy salve, and it took me about a year to come up with a formula I really like. It's deep heating salve. It's all natural ingredients. There's no chemicals in it. This is Breathe Easy. This is my answer to what the big box sells for helping sleep at night and breathe. You can't buy soap in the grocery store anymore or a big box store. You can only buy detergent bars. And they're full of chemicals that are really bad for your body. Almost every detergent bar is full of something called SLS, sodium lauryl sulfate or sodium laureth sulfate. It's a chemical used to degrease jet engines and professional mechanic floors. And if you read the hazmat safety sheet on it, you're not supposed to get it on your skin, but it's in our toothpaste and it's in soap.
When we started this, we just did it for ourselves. I made medicines for my kids, I made salves for my kids, and then I think we gave a lot of this away as Christmas gifts. And then those people came back and wanted more, so I started a website, and it's TennesseeFarmGirl.com, and started selling it, and I sell it all over the world. Tick, tick. Tick, 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 tick. 100 years ago, all our grandmas did this. This was just normal life. These are old-time country skills that we've lost that I want everybody to have again. So I want to teach people so that they can do it too. Tick, 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 tick. Local college would bring kids out here because we're an organic farm. And one morning, it was early, it was very cold, and I served a homemade pound cake. And I had shown the kids the difference in eggs from a store and eggs from a farm. And this little girl was saying to me, "This cake is so good. Why is this cake so good?" I said, "Well, honey, it's because it's made from scratch." And she thought for a minute, and she said, "Where can I buy scratch?" Now, and I live in an agricultural community, but she was dead serious. She's a local girl, and she had no clue.
From a small farm deep in the Tennessee mountains, Cheri Brannon is resurrecting a long-forgotten lifestyle of self-reliance. It's been said that what's old is new again, and like these wooded slopes shrouded in fog, so too were the old recipes and formulas for healthy living, discovered and dusted off once again for the ages.
I want people to learn how to do this to better their own lives. I want them to learn how to use essential oils and plant remedies and how to make soap, how to can their own food. I think they're important skills that we still need today.
John Wells can't really remember when he decided to move out to the middle of nowhere.
It is rather harsh. We don't have streams and springs in this particular area, and if you can get well water, it's not very good. I was warned that it gets hot in the summer, and they were right, it gets hot. My immediate family was really concerned that I was coming here to be a hermit. But most of my friends knew what I was interested in, and they all thought I was a little crazy to come way out here. And I can't remember the exact moment it happened. I decided to sell my house in upstate New York and move out here.
No, the West Texas sun hasn't baked John's brain, but it is baking his bread. In a device called the solar oven, John can cook up a corn pone that would make any Dutch oven devotee proud. No campfire, no coals, just a burning ball of gas about 90 million miles away. The solar oven is one of many experiments going on at this outdoor science center called the Field Lab. Using high-tech windmills and battery arrays along with no-tech marvels like the solar hot water heater, John Wells turns Mother Nature into a motherlode of renewable energy. It's all part of a plan to become self-sustainable, to live completely off the grid. Not bad for a man who spent his younger days among the subways and skyscrapers of New York City. How did you come to be here?
If I could answer that question, that's the million-dollar question. I have no idea. After years of working in Manhattan for a long time as a fashion photographer and a set and prop builder for film and television, it occurred to me from all the labor I was putting in to just buy everything prepackaged for me, it might be interesting to try doing it for myself. I don't think I would go back to a big city. That kind of life doesn't even make sense to me anymore. I'm more in the, I think I'm in the part of my life now where I'm into exploring new things as opposed to being stuck somewhere. So, you know, there's plenty to discover out here. So, no more city life for me. I get nervous when I drive to the city now, even to Alpine. So Bob, this is the inside of my house. We're in the foyer right now. And over to our right is the kitchen.
Right here.
Right over here.
So I'm in the kitchen now.
Yeah, we're in the kitchen.
Okay.
And if we turn around, there's the bedroom over here.
So right over here, now I'm in the bedroom.
Exactly.
Uh-huh.
And then over across the hallway is the office. This is the office.
Okay, so so it's 3 rooms and a foyer.
Pretty much, yeah. 128 square feet, and I use every square inch of it.
These days, John's abode is even smaller than a Manhattan apartment, and he no longer looks much like a fashion photographer. He has become instead a thinker and a tinkerer, a researcher and a reporter on what it takes to live simply, the high-tech way.
You know, as remote as it is here, I have a DSL line. In the morning, I start off with the computer and check email, and in the end of the day, I usually spend an hour or 2 working on my daily blog that I do. So that, you know, that has to include something interesting I've done for the day, and it has to include a photo of the day.
John Wells doesn't know exactly what he's looking for or if he'll ever find it. We suspect he's searching for something about himself. For now, he's happy trying new things.
I have loved these mountains as long as I can remember. Morning is always my very favorite time. I like sunsets and night too, but mornings are the start of a new day. I always look out to see what the sky looks like. It's a new day. There are new opportunities, new ventures.
Way back in the Tow River Valley of the Appalachian Mountains, Nancy McIntyre pays no mind to the cold and rainy morning. It's just another day in this 12-foot by 14-foot cabin that she's called home for many years.
It can be very cold. It can go through you very easily. It went down to 16 below one night. But I have a down sleeping bag, and I put a wool blanket inside of it, and I was cozy. The hard part is getting out of bed and starting the fire, but I have right many heavy sweaters, and I just keep putting on sweaters. And I sit there and feed the fire till it gets going, and the house warms up quickly. I love this old stove. It's my heat, and I cook on it.
The cooking and heating is done by fire, and water comes from a trickling spring close by. For most of us, this would be a hardship. But for Nancy, life in this tiny cabin without electricity or running water, surrounded by miles and miles of wilderness, is all she ever really wanted.
I like to cook on top of a stove anyway. I mean, I can even make biscuits on top of a stove or corn cakes on top of a stove. I don't have to have the oven. This is the kitchen area, and this is where I sleep at night too. And it's comfortable. It's a comfortable bed. It is 12 feet this way, 14 feet this way. My children have been very concerned about my living alone in a cabin with no running water, no electricity, but they have accepted it, and they laugh about it now. They tell me they just simply gave up on me.
Nancy hasn't always lived such a secluded existence. She worked and raised 4 children in the suburbs. And then she took the term empty nest to a new level. Seems her childhood memories of an old family place in the mountains kept tugging at her heartstrings.
This is a picture of my father when I think he was 12 in that picture. And this is the cabin where I started going when I was 1 month old. And I always loved it. The cabin no longer is there. A huge tree fell on it and collapsed it.
One thing that's carried her through the years is writing. Nancy's an expert and leading advocate on organic farming way before it was fashionable. Her articles have appeared in numerous publications, but it was a little over 2 decades ago when Nancy McIntyre reluctantly took on the task of caregiver.
In 1993, there was what looked like a wolf standing towards the bottom of the hill. The vets were saying part wolf, part dog. Recovering from wounds, it had been found badly wounded. In the 11 years that he lived with me, I never once heard him bark. Now, ever, he never barked. No one else ever heard him bark. Wolves don't bark. They howl. I've heard him howl, and it was one of the most beautiful sounds I've ever heard.
Nancy kept a journal of her 11 years with Luke. Through the long healing process, a rare bond developed between the unlikely pair, up until the day Luke passed away.
And he did die in my arms. I was sitting on the floor holding him when he died. After I wrote the book about Luke, friends were asking to read it. I finally tapped it up so other people could read it, because they certainly couldn't read my handwriting. The name of the book is Rush of River Over Rock. Here the moon hangs damp and close, and stars seem near touching. An unseen life of night lingers in early dew, and the sun rises with ringing echo from 2 ridges and a river over. I know Luke adds to my life, and I would let him choose if he could return to the wild. There is no longer much wild. Like old faces that show craft of bone and paths of a lifetime. Luke and I walk the woods a lot to see what we can see. He practically dances with my laughter, my joy in him. He was a delightful companion, for one thing. But I think the more important thing, perhaps, was he was not all the way wild and he was not all the way tame. And I think in some ways we were kind of kindred spirits in that way. I almost get tears in my eyes just remembering him. But I feel very thankful for that memory.
As full as this mountain wilderness seems, with towering rhododendron and twisting mountain laurel, for one 80-year-old woman, there's an emptiness here that can't be measured. She does venture out now, more than in the past, for book signings and public appearances. A reluctant author who's become somewhat of a regional literary celebrity. Her cabin's always had everything she needs. And now it has something else. Memories.
I've got food, I've got heat, I've got water, I've got the out of doors. So even if I end up living the rest of my life alone, which I would never have imagined, I've enjoyed it anyway.
I'm Kelly Phillips.
And I'm Bob Phillips, and this has been a special edition of Texas Country Reporter.
Stay strong, stay safe, and we'll see you next time.
Closed captioning provided by HEB Primo Picks. Thousands of unique one-of-a-kind products picked especially for you. TCR is brought to you by Capital Farm Credit. Together, we're better. Mueller Incorporated. Metal roofs, metal buildings, ironclad guarantees. Hoheim Prairie Insurance. Texans serving Texans since 1892. And top Texas towns Abilene, Hillsboro, Del Rio, Waxahachie, and San Angelo.